Good afternoon, Yorktown. It's Supervisor Matt Slater coming to you from Town Hall with another COVID update. Today is Thursday, November 19th. We have not received, at this point in time, our updated map from the Department of Health. As of yesterday, we had a staggering 146 active cases in the town of Yorktown, which was an increase of 16. And I'm going to show quickly the graph of what we are looking at as a community here. And that gives you a sense as to the ride that we've been on the last 2 weeks. And you can see the month of November has not been kind to the town of Yorktown regarding COVID. Beginning the month at 33 active cases, and as of yesterday, topping off at 146. I stated before, since we started receiving this data and keeping track of it since the first wave, which was obviously in the spring, this is the highest number of active cases that we've had in our community at one time. Now, we have a couple of announcements that I want to make in regards to some of our town offices. Our library is going to be suspending indoor service. And over at the library, that's the John C. Hart Memorial Library. That's located, as everyone knows, on East Main Street in Shrub Oak. They're going to begin offering porch pickup services 6 days a week. And the schedule will be Monday and Thursday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Porch pickup will be 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And that's going to start on Monday. And again, that is in that starts on Saturday. That's in direct result of the increased numbers of COVID-19. I want to thank our interim library director, Pat Barisi, for her great leadership. But we, again, as I've said to our staff, since we've been through this in the spring, we've learned from the spring, and we've learned how we can continue to operate safely, making sure town government continues to operate safely while ensuring services to the residents of Yorktown. This is just another way of doing that by expanding the porch pickup hours to include evenings and weekends. And I want to thank our library staff, and again, Pat Barisi and the library board for implementing this policy. In addition to that, Yorktown's going to start beginning on Monday. We're going to be managing our staff differently. We're going to have our labor force, who's done a terrific job. We're going to have our labor force broken into pods. They're going to have different staging areas around Yorktown. We're trying to limit exposure. We want to make sure that all of our departments continue to operate at a high level. And our labor force did a superb job. Our entire workforce did a superb job in the spring. And again, learning from what we went through in the spring, we've devised what the town board and I believe is a very efficient plan that allows services to continue, as well as protects our employees and limits their exposure from potential COVID-19 cases. And so our labor force is going to be broken up into pods, and our administrative force is going to be working. They're going to be working 2.5 days in their respective offices, and then they're going to be working remotely for 2.5 days. They're going to be splitting their staff, teams A and teams B, again, to make sure that government continues to function, but that we're limiting exposure to COVID-19. Now, we heard earlier today that the governor has, and I spoke with the governor's staff earlier. We heard from our county executive today. The governor and the state of New York have now instituted cluster zones in some of our neighboring communities here in Westchester County. Specifically, the cluster zones include parts of the town and village of Ossining, as well as parts of the city of Peekskill. And I say parts because, again, as we're seeing these cluster zones implemented by the state, they are not done through the entire community, but they're able to use very specific data that drives down into zip code and census tract. So it gets very, very micro-targeted, which is good and bad, because it's good because it doesn't put restrictions on an entire community, but it's also can be, I think, challenging, and we're going to see in the coming days how this is implemented as well as in parts of Yonkers, Tarrytown, New Rochelle. We already had one, and we continue to have one down in Portchester, but there's going to be restrictions within the yellow zone, and then there will be no restrictions outside of the yellow zone. And so that's again the good and the bad. Now I'm going to show again by sharing my screen here. This will give you an idea of where the cluster zones are. This one that I'm going to show you is Peekskill. So that is the yellow zone for the parts of the city of Peekskill. And again, we of course, Peekskill are neighbors. We have a very fond connection to the city of Peekskill. We wish Mayor Andre Rainey, their city council, and all their residents well as they grapple with this. And then next, we will show you. Here is the Ossining cluster. And you see there parts of the town and village of Ossining. This is the cluster zone here. And you can see how far down that stretches, down Route 9, again, down that Route 9 corridor. And so I think it's very clear, and we've been talking about this here out of Town Hall, and the town board has echoed my sentiments. Obviously, these cluster zones are getting much closer to home, to the town of Yorktown. And we have declared and reinstated our state of emergency that does not put any restrictions on the operations of businesses, houses of worship, or our schools. But it should signal very strongly to the residents of Yorktown that we need to take this very, very seriously. And now we have 2 neighboring communities with those cluster zones. If we want to, and I said this before, if we want to keep our businesses open, if we want to keep our schools open, and our school districts have just done such a great job from the administrations, Dr. Hatter, Dr. Lyons, to their entire faculty and staff. They have just been tremendous in keeping our schools. I understand that, again, it's a hybrid model, but offering in-person education to our students and to the children of Yorktown. And they've done a great job. And if we want to allow them to continue to do that great job, and if we want to allow our houses of worship to continue to operate, then we have to limit the community spread. And I've said this, you've heard it a million times, I've said it a million times, and I'm going to keep saying it. Be responsible. Be smart. Wear your mask when you're out in public. You don't need to walk around with a measuring tape trying to measure 6 feet. Better be safe than sorry. And that sorry, as we're seeing in some of our neighboring communities, will have a direct impact on small businesses in our town, on our schools, on our houses of worship, and probably most significantly, the potential to make someone very, very sick. Again, this is not trying to fearmonger. This is just factual. And we, again, as I showed you earlier, the numbers from the last time we received data from the Department of Health is 146 total active in the town of Yorktown. If you're not feeling well, as we stated before, please stay home, contact your medical provider. We have heard from several of the testing sites in Yorktown. Many of them are changing their policies because there's such a high demand in testing that they can't keep up with the demand. So many are now transitioning to only providing rapid tests if you're symptomatic, not if you're asymptomatic. So just keep that in mind when you are trying to find a testing site that is here in the community if you're trying to get tested for COVID-19. There are leaders within Westchester County who I appreciate and I echo, who are trying to get a Northern Westchester state testing site. We have discussed various sites. Of course, FDR Park is one of those sites that we continue to point to as a potential state testing site. We have not heard one way or the other from the state of New York if they're going to implement one either at FDR Park or elsewhere in making I'm sorry, we're having some technical difficulties, it sounds like. But again, it comes down to making smart choices, responsible choices, wearing a mask. This isn't a political debate. I know people are frustrated. I know people have that COVID fatigue. I echo those sentiments. I'd much rather be talking about some of the great things that we've been accomplishing for the town of Yorktown, that the town board continues to work on. But unfortunately, this is the reality. And we have to be pragmatic, and we have to recognize that the numbers are putting us in a very serious trajectory. And again, as we've heard from our county and state and federal leaders from all parties, obviously Thanksgiving is around the corner. It's a great holiday and a great American tradition. And it's important, though, that we are smart and responsible when we celebrate. And I'm not telling you not to celebrate Thanksgiving, but if we want to limit the community spread, then you have to make sure you take the proper precautions. Now, the Westchester County Department of Health has put out some guidelines and protocols that they've recommended. We'll be sharing that in the next day or so with the community. And they provide some, I think, great ideas as to how, when you're gathering, if you're gathering, hopefully that gathering is small, but if you are gathering with members of your family, that you take the right steps to protect yourself, to protect the other members of your family, and to limit the community spread. And if, as we're seeing again, those cluster zones are getting much closer to the town of Yorktown, which really should signal to our residents the importance of making responsible decisions, not just for Thanksgiving, but every single day. We've been challenged before. We've met that challenge. I believe strongly we've met that challenge in the spring as a community. And now, again, as I said before, Yorktown doesn't back down from a fight. And we are most definitely in a fight again here, a fight to keep our schools open, a fight to keep our businesses open, and a fight to keep our houses of worship open. And no one wants to see any more restrictions being handed down, but it takes our entire community effort to make sure that that doesn't happen. So again, I wanted to provide another update. As a reminder, the last numbers we had 146 active cases. We do have cluster zones that have been designated by the by the state government in neighboring municipalities of the town of Yorktown. There are no cluster zones here in the town of Yorktown. They've been designated for the city of Peekskill and parts of the town and village of Ossining. That is the closest ones to the town of Yorktown. But if that doesn't signal to the residents of our community to take this seriously, I really don't know what else I can say or do to emphasize the importance and significance of the situation we currently are in. So as always, we will continue to provide verified and accurate information as it becomes made available to us. I want to thank all of our partners in government, from County Executive Latimer to our county legislators, Colin Smith and Vidat Gashi, who I remain in contact with, to the entire Yorktown Town Board, all of our board members. We stand united in our approach to make sure that our community remains safe, healthy, and open, as well as to our partners in the state government, Assemblyman Burns, Senator Harcum, Governor Cuomo, and to our partners on the federal level, who we still hear from as well. We can get through this. We will get through this, and we'll do it together. So until then, stay safe, stay healthy. I'll be back tomorrow with Dr. Robert Amler. Dr. Robert Amler is one of the deans at New York Medical College, and he's also the former CDC director, a very good friend to the town of Yorktown. And we're looking forward to having a very educational conversation with Dr. Amler as the holidays approach, so he can provide some of his insight as well and provide some guidelines and protocols. So we'll see you tomorrow. Again, stay safe, stay healthy, and we appreciate all your time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.